Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Today on the Half a Bubble Out podcast, Catherine and I are going to talk about a critical step in everyone's marketing strategy, and that's creating an amazing customer experience. We're going to define what we mean by delighting the customer. We're also going to tell you why we believe that delighting the customer is not only part of the marketing process, but the most important part of the marketing process, and why we believe that this one thing can give you and your company a competitive advantage. Finally, to help you implement something at the end of this video, we're going to give you 7 things you can do to improve your customer experience. Whether you use just one of these ideas or all 7 of them, I guarantee that it will improve the impact and the profitability of your marketing. So let's jump in and get going. When we're talking about the entire marketing process, what gets left out a lot is the actual part of the customer experience, right? Because a lot of people actually think that the customer experience isn't part of marketing.
It's just so not true.
Well, and
It's a really, really important part of marketing.
it is. And you know why that happens, right?
Because they have it as a whole different piece of the puzzle. Because we separate marketing out into all these different functions, right? So you've got sales. Is that really marketing? Well, yes, it is. You've got marketing, which is, some of the formal focus stuff that we talk about. But then the customer fulfillment, it's as though, or the customer experience, right?
Yeah.
It's as though it's a separate piece of the puzzle. And if you're going to be successful as a company, it can't be. Because ultimately, how your customer experiences after they've purchased your product is every bit as important as getting them to purchase to begin with.
Yeah. I think one of the best illustrations that's easily available to everybody is going to a restaurant.
Yeah.
And the biggest fans that I know of restaurant eating and the biggest critic is my mother.
Well, and she's a one and done kind of woman. You get one chance to it. You open brand new restaurant, you get one chance.
Yeah, she's pretty well. And even if you've been around for a long time and she goes and
one bad experience, you're done.
What's interesting is that once she likes a place, she's consistent. You have to work really hard to shut her down.
Yeah, she's loyal.
She is very loyal, but you have to be able to make sure that she's happy in the beginning. I mean, there was a restaurant we recommended to her when she turned 80, and obviously, and she traveled around the country with my sister. And when they went to Portland, Maine, right? We recommended a restaurant that we had been to once before COVID.
But it was so freaking good.
And we were just praying that it was like, I'm making a recommendation.
Experience.
The experience we had was consistent when they showed up 5 years later, 4 years later. And we went, phew. And one of the topics we're going to talk about today a little bit is consistency, but it's this whole aspect of having a restaurant experience. We're going to use it again and again in today's podcast because that is where delivery happens. And there's so much going on, and it's every bit as important as the marketing. Well, it is part of the marketing.
Right. Well, and the experience is as important as the food, right? It isn't just what you're eating. It's how you experience the environment and the people you're interacting with while you're eating.
And all the different stuff. So we'll talk more about that as a running analogy or illustration, but we've seen how important it is in our own companies. We started our company 22 years ago, right? 22 and a half years ago.
Seems about right.
We founded another company in the pet food industry. We built that company with our partner on this idea that customer experience was critical. And then we see it with our clients all the time for the last 22 years, just working with clients, seeing the ones that thrive, are very successful because we're engaged in advertising and marketing and consulting with them. But if they don't know how to actually deliver good service, if they don't know how to deliver great experience, whether it's a restaurant or whether it's a brick and mortar selling mattresses or whether it's a service-based company or anything like that, large ticket or small ticket, this customer experience is critical. So we're going to talk about 7 different aspects of it so that when if somebody's listening today and goes, okay, I'm buying into that. What can I specifically do? We're going to have 7 things that you can actually pay attention to. And I thought we would start with actually thinking about Warren Buffett. I found this great quote.
Warren Buffett.
Actually, a couple of quotes.
What does he know? He only has like $143 bazillion.
Is that what he has? $143 billion. He is the 6th. That's what our notes say. That's our...
I didn't just come up with that randomly.
He is... you did a good job sounding like you came up with it randomly.
Hell,
He's the 6th wealthiest man as of this month.
Wow.
As of the fall of 2024. But here's a guy who has been really, really, really successful, owns lots of companies, has some great stories. But I
Mhm.
was surprised at how often he talks about this customer experience. It's not just something that's theoretical. Here's a billionaire who owns lots of companies that were started as small businesses and grew, and he got into those. Furniture business alone is
Yeah.
one of the areas he's in. And then figuring out, realizing what it is. He said this, you need a genuine desire day in and day out to delight the customer. I've never seen a business, and I've seen a lot of businesses that delights a customer that doesn't succeed.
That's a powerful statement.
And he was in this one speech that I was watching, and he's just an old man now, a really bright old man who's very successful and still controls Berkshire Hathaway and stuff. But he's sitting there just going, "Look, folks, I hope you understand. I've seen a lot of businesses, and this is a tried and true." And the next
Mhm.
one, not to satisfy your customer, but to delight your customer.
Mm.
Think about it morning, noon, and night, and then dream about it. You start by getting them one at a time. He says a successful company actually could have a million really great, thrilled, excited customers, delighted customers. But I loved how he said you start by getting them one at a
Yeah.
time, and over time you build them up.
Yep.
So
Yep.
this is something that whatever state your company's in, it's important. Now, I think it's important to say one last thing about why this is critical at this juncture. The economy is soft. There's plenty of people thinking that it's going to continue to be soft, and still it's due for some corrections that are going to be hard.
Yep.
It either happens this year or it happens soon, within the next couple of years. We don't know for sure. But we're at a place now where I really do think that the market has shrunk enough that there's no longer right now enough business to support all the
Mm.
companies that are out there. I think we're at a place now where we for often have said on this podcast, well, there's always enough business. There's plenty of business. Well, I think we were wrong. There's not always, often there's enough business that everybody can compete, in a sense that everybody can get enough to survive and thrive
Right.
and be okay. But in this market, it's starting to get to the place where I don't know if all the restaurants will survive.
Right.
Restaurant business is down. Each ticket that somebody comes in and like, well, I'm not going to purchase as much. Maybe I won't get two drinks. Maybe I'll get one. Maybe we won't get an appetizer today. So everybody's feeling it.
Yeah. Well, and the rise in food costs and all the other things, a lot of people eating at home. And then across all the markets, like if you run a business that has non-essential, that's not, you're not selling bread,
Yeah.
um, there are going to be less customers for a while because people will hold and wait because they won't want to use the income they have on non-essential items for a period of time. And again, we don't know, how bad it's going to get, and maybe it won't be that big of a deal, but
Right.
it does feel very sort of 2008, 9-ish is what is in the air.
Well, and
So,
we just got asked about a restaurant, if we took on restaurants as marketing customers. And the
yeah,
simple answer is no, that's not our specialty. But
no.
what I do know about the restaurant market is that their margins aren't high. And what they're going to need to do is figure out how to be creative with it, because they don't have a lot of budget.
Mhm.
So they're going to have to be extra creative with their marketing. And I think social media actually provides a great opportunity for that, and allowing you to leverage smaller amounts of budget.
Yeah.
So let's dive in
Yeah,
and
and
talk.
before we dive in,
Yeah.
I just want to highlight one of the things I really liked about what Warren Buffett said is he's not talking about customer satisfaction. He's
Mm,
talking about delight.
mm,
And delight, it's one thing to be satisfied. Like, yeah, I got what I expected,
yeah.
right? But delight, that's next level when it comes to interacting with a company. If a company delights me, I'm going to remember it differently. I'm going to recommend it. So I want to make sure that as we're talking through the rest of these, the kind of the 7 bullet points, that we keep reminding ourselves that the goal is to delight the customer. Because I just think that's a really cool part of what he's saying. And I think it's what it takes to really stand out, especially in the times that we're living in.
Yeah. Well, and these are when you're trying to make decisions on what to impact, where to put your energy and your resources, that's the job of any leader,
Hmm.
is to go, okay, what is the smartest thing to do next? Where do we spend the money and how do we get all the resources behind it?
Yep.
So these are 7 things that we can talk about that actually the leaders and small businesses can do and think about. So number 1, personalization for them and to them, for the customer and to the customer.
Okay.
So what do we mean by that? Their interests, personalized choices tailored to them. This has been a promise of the internet, but it actually is like anything taken too far, it can get a little weird or overbearing or annoying.
Little feeling like you're being stalked.
But at the same time, if in the old days when you had a brick and mortar and somebody came in, the first thing you'd ask is, how can I help you? And
Yeah.
the goal was, if they were in your furniture store and they wanted to see rugs, you didn't show them beds.
Well, I mean, some did, but yes, you don't want a rug. You want this bed.
This
You
bed
don't
will
want
be
this
a much better thing.
$100 rug. You want this $10,000 bed. Some salespeople did that.
But when you're the idea of if you really are customizing to some extent, that's the old style. Listen to people and respond. And in the digital world, you can listen to people. You can see their behavior, but you have to have good metrics in the midst of that. And we'll talk about that in another video. But this whole idea of customization, that's what's going on. That's what cookies have allowed us to do is, oh, you're this, or you go, Facebook does this, Meta does this, different platforms. You've watched these things, you've done these things. We're going to suggest these videos to you, these whatever to you, because we think that that's what you would like. They're
Right.
trying to customize in the midst of it. Sometimes it feels like, okay, I know that you think that's what I want, but I'd like to see something new or different. That's a side effect.
Yeah.
But this personalization, I think that idea of how do I customize it something for you in my service or my company? I think the shortest and easiest answer is just asking people what they need help with and then figuring out how to customize. We've done that for years, haven't we?
Oh, yeah. I mean, part of it is, I think if you're in an industry where you can manage the reality that cookie cutter experiences aren't always the best, then tailoring the experience and what it is that a person needs to their actual need on the spot, very, very helpful. I mean, if you're meeting with people face to face, if you're consulting, if you're doing any of that, you have to be doing that. You have to be asking what's actually going to be helpful.
Yeah.
In retail, same thing. Walk in the door, like what's actually helpful. I think if you're delivering a product,
Yeah.
from an e-commerce type of experience, then there's things you can do, fancy web things you can do to customize their entry into a website to take them different directions. But there's also just the simple things of pairing products like, hey, you saw this, you might actually like this. And if you're doing that, not just to upsell, but also to actually be helpful, I think that's another way to move through it.
Yeah. We see this in our consulting coaching company. We see this in e-commerce, our e-commerce company and the e-commerce company of our clients. This whole idea of, okay, now you don't get to see them, you get to ask. I think the retail is interesting. Here's a question that I think comes up a lot, and that is, okay, you want me to customize, but like now it starts to become overwhelming because I'm customizing for every person. And how do I customize for every person? Because everybody's different. There's a gazillion different things and blah, 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 blah.
AI. No.
That's the
answer. It's just AI.
Just AI.
Have the robots do it.
I mean, that's a challenge, isn't it?
It is a challenge. And I think certainly in the e-commerce world, there's the reality that the interaction happening online, the more that you can, even just have a system where if there's a moment that you can discover a person's name, let's say you're doing customer service, like identifying their name and then using their name, I think is a really critical piece of the puzzle. And it doesn't mean that you've had to customize every product. Obviously, if you're selling a product, that's that product. You're not going to tailor make it for them. You're not going to, reconstruct the chemistry of the makeup or something for a person, but you can make them feel like you're connecting with them in the way that you set up their experience and their buying, and using their name is a really critical piece of that puzzle.
Well, and one of the things that happens in that process too, that people get overwhelmed with the idea that if I'm going to customize, I have to customize. I have to create a customization package for every single person that comes in. If they're coming in off the street and I don't know their name, sometimes it's awkward to ask or whatever. But the sooner you can learn that, especially with repeat customers, everybody likes that.
Mhm.
Everybody enjoys that. But one of the things that's interesting is what that helps with this is understanding your avatar, understanding your ideal customer persona.
Mm.
This idea of, for those who don't understand what that is, it's like, who are our ideal customers? We might only have 2, 3, 4 ideal customers
Mhm.
that all kind of group in one area or one category. They're like one large category. And then all of a sudden we're niching. And
Mhm.
that's what happens when you niche is you're able to actually not only find the product that people want or the range of products and services they want, but you can speak to specific group of people.
Yeah, and you can learn what their pain points are and then craft language around what you're selling that addresses those pain points,
Then
right?
you've got a website that can be
Mhm.
designed for them. You've got a showroom that can be designed for them. You've got a sales process that can
Right.
be designed for them because now it starts to customize, and then you can pick out little things in the midst of it that help refine it even more. It's like, well, do you want this or do you want this? Let me help you
Mhm.
customize that.
Yeah.
That personalization, restaurants are huge when people come in and you start to know their name. The old TV show Cheers,
Where
for
everybody knows
those,
your name.
everybody knows your name.
And they're always glad you came.
And I don't know how many millennials know that show unless they've watched old reruns or something like that. But that there was
Yeah.
that concept of this old TV show from the 80s where you just people want to hear their name. Matter of fact, there's even scientific research that's been
Mhm.
done even since the early 90s where different parts of the brain light up when they're doing mapping of it when you hear your name.
Yep.
Or in a crowded room, the cocktail party experiment, where all this background noise, you can't hear anything going on, but somehow people have this ability to hear their name, or we have
Mm.
an ability to hear
Oh,
our
yeah,
name in the
absolutely.
midst of all that noise.
I can be across the room in a conversation, and you're in a different conversation across the room, and you mention my name because you're talking to them about something that involves me, and everything
Yes.
just goes.
Okay, one of the so when we talk about personalization in the internet world, one of the technologies that's useful is the idea of email to specific people that identify.
But you gotta get it right. I mean, there isn't a one of us out here who hasn't, like, gotten that email that says, "Dear George," and you're like,
I'm
mine
not
mine not
George.
George," or "Dear first name." That's my favorite.
Okay, so that's personalization, emails, ads. In today's world, you can use ads and there's a personalization as far as demographics, male, female, age, generation, income bracket, psychographics. These are your likes, your desires. These are things you look at,
Mhm.
so on and so forth. And then what we've seen is a growing amount of research in the area that we've talked about on this podcast about values and value
Yep.
graphics. So demographics, psychographics, and value graphics. And the value graphics, the algorithms are figuring it out. They're spotting the trends in the things we watch and the things we listen to. They're scanning the videos, they're looking at stuff, they can
Mhm.
analyze the image now, and they're getting better and better at it. And it's interesting because they're lumping not only topics that we're interested in, but they can start to spot values and political parties and all of those kinds of things.
Mhm.
So paying attention to ads and the algorithms and everything else is helping. The second thing is consistency across all channels,
Mm.
which I think is conflicting a little bit with what you said earlier of this. It feels like it's always the same and it's a little creepy because it's always the same. And that idea of it just feels rubber stamped. So there's a place where you want to make it unique or consistent across all channels. We probably should explain what it is that means or what we're talking about. But consistent across all channels, but don't go to the place where it's just generic.
Well, and when you're talking about consistency across channels, I'm assuming that what you're thinking is that no matter where you show up, there are unique things about different channels that you have to do, but you want the scent of who you are, the style of communication, the voice, the messaging to be consistent. so that no matter where I encounter you, and I need to be encountering you on multiple platforms these days, right? But if I encounter you on in an ad versus in social media versus, coming in and seeing you, I mean, whatever those touch points are, that the experience that I would have as a customer would be consistent. I wouldn't be confused. Like, you don't feel like that company that I thought looked like, you don't look like you seem online. So whatever those things are. So that's the consistency across channels that I think is super, super critical.
Yeah, and the reason I brought that up is because I've heard some people get confused on, okay, you told me to be consistent. So, and I'm really good at putting things in a box and I'm really good at organizing. And so I just automated the entire thing and I ran the whole thing out. And yet you get into this place where you're like, wait. You took that principle and you went to the nth degree, and the nth degree isn't helpful
Right.
because now you're losing a customization, if you will. You're losing somebody feeling like it's actually speaking to them. At the same time, you're going with consistency, which is important. But so many people fight the consistency thing.
Hmm.
And I think one of the reasons, and we should probably do a video on the different reasons people believe are really important, and they're actually trying to achieve an objective by, but what they are doing is violating this idea of consistency and scent.
Mm.
And one of those things that happens often, fairly often, is they actually are violating it, thinking they're doing something better.
Mm.
They're achieving a different objective. Like, I can't get their attention, so I'm going to be different every time. I'm going to take our logo and I'm going to take our name and I'm going to move it around and I'm going to kind of tweak it for everyone because that'll be different. They'll notice that it's different, and then first of all, they're going to notice your logo, and then second, is it you or is it a copycat company? Is it somebody out of China that's
Hmm.
doing it, or is it really your company? That kind of brand alignment is super important.
Well, yeah, because if you don't have the alignment on your brand alone, there's so much confusion. It just introduces questions like, yeah, is this the same company? So
Yeah.
there's the brand alignment that has to be there, messaging alignment. And, the way that we talk to people, I mean, like, I'm going to talk to, you know, the 2-year-old a lot differently than I'm going to talk to the teenager,
Uh,
differently than I'm going to talk to the grown up. But what's consistent is who I am in the middle of that. So, I'm going to be kind in
mm,
all of those interactions. I'm going to say, hopefully, honoring things in all of those interactions, the
uh,
things that are core to the values of how I want to show up in the world. And I think as a company, that's what matters. It's not that you're going to say the exact same thing in every place. It's that whatever it is you're saying, it's very consistently you. It's very consistently your brand, your company, in the way that you're positioning the different messages that you put out there.
yeah. Sometimes it's important to just say the same thing all the time
Mhm.
because it's more natural and everything else, and it aligns with the brand. The hamburger uh, company in Yuba City, the place we stop for burgers all the time,
Red Robin.
Red Robin.
I was like,
Yeah, what
where are
is
we
that
going?
place?
Where are we going?
Red Robin it's declined a bit, but over the last 30 years, they've had a couple of things that were really important in their customer service. And one of them was everybody gets talked to at the table and greeted after they got seated within 2 minutes.
Mhm.
Somebody in the restaurant is greeting you and getting your drink order until your wait can get to you, or even if it's your wait.
Yep.
There's that repetition of that consistency that was always, hi, how are you? Welcome to Red Robin. Have you been here before?
Mhm.
It was so amazing. I ended up asking people, how did you do this? And what have
Yeah.
you got? I've got actually a little card somewhere in my desk, I think, that is the 4 different things. It's a card they give all employees. It's the 4 different things they want them to do and how
Mm.
they want them to treat their customers. So no matter where you went, whether it was Colorado or Northern California or Southern California or anywhere else,
Yeah.
you had this same experience.
Mhm.
And when you walked into a Red Robin, it looked like a Red Robin. A lot of really successful chain restaurants have done that.
Yep. Absolutely.
One of the things that shows up for me in that consistency is one of our clients who is the mattress makers in San Diego County who have multiple mattress stores. They're a
Mm.
family company, started up, right? I've been so impressed with how well they not only create a feeling of welcomeness in every store,
Mhm.
but every time we've opened a new store along the journey with them, their design, the simple design stuff
Yep.
is consistent. They don't completely do something like a Red Robin where they change everything and The whole building is custom. They move into other buildings, but they've got certain distinct things in the environment, the way they do things, the way they lay beds out. So if you've been in one and you go into another, you're like, I'm in the same place.
Yeah.
Oh, these are my people. And if I'm confused at all, as soon as they interact with me, I realize, oh, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think that's really useful and really helpful.
Yep.
Okay. Two reasons why that's important that I thought was worth mentioning. One is literally that consistency helps people feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone is powerful. The second one is just from the research. There's this thing about brain calories. And every time we have something easy or to understand and to think through, our brain spends less calories.
Mm-hmm.
Every time we are met with something that's different, we have to figure something out. Conflict, volatility, complexity, ambiguity,
VUCA, VUCA, VUCA.
VUCA. We have to spend more calories.
Mm-hmm.
And just at a primal level of our body, our goal is to conserve calories.
Yeah.
And with the world being crazy everywhere, our brains are counting calories faster than ever to go, how do I survive in this world? So that consistency in your brand actually speaks to your customers' brains at a scientific level, at a biological level. And then we just know, like, people like it when they I need some consistency in my life.
Right.
Are
Things I
you going to
can
be
count
are you
on.
going to be a brand that does that?
Right.
Okay. The third item we want to talk about is effortless interaction.
Which, this is a great segue into effortless interaction, right? So if you have sold something to a customer, well done. Congratulations. Step one. Maybe not step one, but good job. But then what happens in the follow up, the delivery, the times that you interact, right? And I've had great experiences with this. And I have had just, as all of you have, I'm sure, just terrible, terrible customer service interaction. So, my favorite of all time has been, and I don't mean to throw him under the bus, but I bought a couch. We bought a couch and a dining room table, right? Two things from Pottery Barn. And this was towards the end of the COVID crisis. It's just a couple of years ago. So things were backed up, shipping was rough, whatever. But from the moment that we purchased stuff in the store and things that we were told to the months and months and months that it took for some items to make it to us and some for me to have to fight to get my money back on because I had given up, to multiple pieces and parts, to the fact that I ended up having to do battle with a third party company that wasn't Pottery Barn, and they wouldn't go to bat for me on the delivery side.
Pottery
I mean,
Barn wouldn't go
just
to bat for
Pottery
you.
Barn wouldn't go to bat. I mean, it was hours and hours and hours of my time. And it took 9 months, and I've heard even worse stories, but forever to get through. And as much as, it wasn't all Pottery Barn's fault, the fact is I bought it from them. And so their follow through and ability to help customers be successful at actually receiving the end product was
Yeah.
dismal.
Well, and I'm going to push back and go, I think it was 100% Pottery Barn's fault.
Fair. You know what? I'm just trying to be kind.
No, I get it.
But,
Well, and a lot of people,
it's
and
so rough.
but what a lot of companies are saying is, you bought it from us, but it's not our fault because we hired this other company and they're just not fulfilling on there, and they're passing the buck. They never really say, I'm sorry, we're going to figure out how to fix this.
Right.
It's somebody else's, or we don't know how to deal with this and we don't want to, because
Yeah.
Pottery
Well,
Barn,
and my favorite one was the sales rep in the store shouldn't have told you that.
yes,
Well, but they did. And the reason that I bought this was because
they
they
told
told
this.
us that. Right. So just, yeah, you're right. It is like completely their fault. It's horrible.
And this is a danger in today's market of building trust. We'll get in a couple of spots, we'll talk about trust. Let's hold on to that thought about trust. We'll come back to Pottery Barn. The fourth thing is proactive communication and follow-up. Not every company can easily do this. Sometimes this takes more work, but we have seen over and over and over and over and over again that when a client needs to bring something up, when a customer needs to bring something up, when a customer needs to hold the company accountable at a large level, like, you really screwed up, or, hey, this is a little late. Can I get an update? Every time that they have to ask, some trust is chipped away at.
Yep.
Some benefit of the doubt is chipped away at. And this is something that so many companies, and we've struggled with this too. I've heard us say this times, well, I'm so busy, or I got lost, or in just the day to day or whatever.
Yeah.
And the places where we have seen mistakes in our own company and in our clients' companies and other people's companies is when they just leave it to, well, I'll communicate when they contact me.
Right.
Almost as if hopefully they're not noticing that we're behind schedule. Hopefully they're not noticing that what we said. And then the farther you can remove them into the e-commerce world, the more it is to pretend, the more easy it is to pretend that they won't notice. Because you never see them, you never talk to them, you never hear that feedback. But the reality is, if you want a killer way to edge ahead of competition and to build, figure out how to be proactive.
Yeah.
The food is late in the kitchen. I realize that it's been a little bit longer. Let me tell you, as opposed to, I'm just going to wait until the food's ready and then I'll bring it out and say, I'm sorry. Or maybe not even say, I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't even acknowledge it took 20 minutes to get a hamburger.
Right.
I know in service businesses, this is absolutely amazing. If you can plan this in to where I'm going to give you an update and I'm going to be proactive and I'm going to tell you where we are on things. What they learn, the customer learns is, I don't have to spend as many brain calories planning and thinking and holding you accountable or keeping track of stuff because I'm not worried about you taking advantage of me, or I'm not worried about things getting lost.
Well, and even if you don't have an update, but they're probably wondering, just to communicate and go, hey, I haven't learned what I need to learn yet, but I'm on it. Just that assurance that proactive assurance can just go such a long way.
Yeah. Somebody like Pottery Barn could say, we have too many customers. There's no way we can do that. I know I've heard that from much, much smaller e-commerce companies. There's no way we can call people because it's bad investment of money. Oh yeah? I think it's a great investment of money.
Yeah.
And you can see it in loyalty and opportunities and people being excited, because going after the places where people are shocked is some of the, like, you get a multiplication of return. And people are shocked when somebody actually calls them and says, by the way, that thing you bought online, or leaves you a message on your phone, or sends you a text if you give it to them, or sends you an email at the least. We realize that this is it, that it's taking a while or whatever. We're just checking in and making sure you know that we're working on it. We apologize. Number 5 is community building. What comes to mind when you think about what it means to build community in any circumstance, in any context? What are the signs that community is being developed, grown, increasing?
There's an increasing sense of trust. There's connection. There's an enjoyment of each other's company. There's a sense of wanting to be with those folks.
Okay, now stop. How has Half a Bubble Out created that with our customers?
Oh, well, they just like us. They say things like, I really like hanging out with them. Yeah. So the big piece for us in how we create community with our customers, with our staff, we are relational, right? So we're building relationships constant. That is everything from how an email gets crafted to every conversation, every Zoom call. We're building relationship all the time, because ultimately, while this may be a business transaction, the fact of the matter is customers buy from people they like and they enjoy, and they want very much to do business when it's fun and enjoyment is had along the way, as opposed to feeling like you're just having to get the job done. So
one of the reasons I threw that at you, and this is something that our listeners, if they've listened to us at all on any of our podcasts, they realize that I think faster and I ask a lot of questions, and you want to ponder and think about something a little bit more. And sometimes the connections that I see aren't always the connections you see.
Yeah.
But I asked you that because of that. Because I realized that a lot of customers, a lot of people actually are more like you, in the sense that they might be listening right now, other business owners, and they're like, I had a service business, it's one-on-one, 2 people don't make a community. My customers never meet each other.
Right.
They never do anything like that.
That was the first place I went. I was like,
How do you
we
do
don't have
that?
we don't have like parties and stuff with our customers. Some people do, but we don't do that.
And what I wanted to push is that this is a higher level. This is like the more difficult one
Mhm.
because the rest of it starts to get easier. But what customers do is they identify with themselves with a company they like. And they identify such as this. We would say, I regularly go to Italian Cottage for food. I really love their
Pastrami and
pastrami
pepper
and pepper
cheese
cheese
with
sandwiches
grilled onions.
with grilled onions. I'm a regular there.
Mhm.
I go to Half a Bubble Out. We work with them. Oh, we've been working with them for years. We love them. It's great. I'm one of their customers.
Mhm.
They're one of our vendors. They're a
Right.
consultant of ours, whatever. They like that a lot.
Mhm.
And that's pretty powerful. And so what happens is this phenomenon of because we're a company, people who are our customers would associate with other customers, not associate with them as opposed to hang out with them, but they think, well, I'm in a group of people.
Mhm.
There's this sense of community. If I meet somebody else who many of our clients know each other at some level in the community, at least our local clients, they would say, oh, you are. And when we've had parties and they've met, they all get along because there's a similar, it's like all of a sudden they have something in common,
Mhm.
which is part of community.
Yeah.
And so you can deal with that even if nobody else is around them as a customer that they know of or they hang out with, or there's not groups. E-commerce is the same, but all of a sudden at times you say, oh, I use that product too. And there's a moment, a spark of I'm part of a community, whether they identify it as a community or not. And that's what we're talking about here in this community building. In experience, if you have a place like a piece of Velcro, a little hook that their little hook can come in
Yeah.
and connect.
Well, and in the e-commerce world, you do things like this is a private sale for just our community. Things like that, where
100%.
suddenly you've got that recognition, that connection, that identification with I'm special, I'm a VIP, I'm one of the in crowd.
Okay. Trust and transparency in pricing, in policies, in guarantees.
Mm.
Build trust, build trust, build trust.
Yeah. Say what you're gonna do what you said you'd do. And if you don't do what you said you were gonna do, say you're sorry and fix it.
Yeah. And do it proactively,
Do it
not reactively.
right? Do it proactively. And empower your people to say they're sorry if something breaks.
Yeah.
Right? And to figure out how to fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the, not to just beat on the saga, but one of the worst experiences with the Pottery Barn thing was that you would get to a Pottery Barn customer service rep and they were trained to say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry this happened to you. I'm so sorry this happened to you. But they were not empowered to fix it. And you could never talk to the same person twice. They weren't even allowed to have email addresses. So you had this sense of every time you had to start over and they were sorry, but they were not empowered to do anything. So it was a complete waste of
It was a
time.
hollow apology.
Hollow apology.
Yeah.
Like, fix it.
So building trust is all those things of being
Mhm.
authentic and being willing to admit your mistakes and being willing to see how you can correct it and figuring that out.
Mhm.
And when you have a system that's designed that removes those opportunities for responsibility or pressure or anything like that, you just default into this place that there's a lot of hollow apologies or what. Guarantees are very interesting. I was listening to a lecture recently and I loved what the person said because it resonated with me over the years of what we've seen and what we've done and what we said, but he said it really well. And it was this: a guarantee can be an amazingly powerful thing in today's marketplace. It can also be an incredibly negative thing in a marketplace. Having a guarantee can actually decrease your brand value
Mm.
and actually decrease trust. And I was like, okay, this is a bold statement.
Explain.
And everybody did
Explain
what
yourself.
everybody in the room did what your
Hmm?
face, like, excuse me. And what happens is a perfect example is when that he gave was when companies actually say, this is guaranteed. We are guaranteed asterisks.
Mhm.
Your purchase is safe. You can basically we're saying if you're not happy, blah, blah, unless this condition, this condition, this
Mm.
condition, this condition. Or even he took issue with people saying everything's on sale in our store up to 40% off. We're used to seeing those
Mhm.
languages now. So they don't bother
Amen.
us nearly as much. But what they're doing is they're saying that says up to 50, up to 60, up to whatever.
The thing I want is gonna be 5, I just know.
Yes. And that's exactly what we
Yeah,
say. Everything that they're promising, but what I want won't fit that category.
right.
Now, the worst thing in the world is that it actually might fit our category, but it's been done so many times and they're using that strategy that we think quickly, but that's not me.
Mm.
I'm going to walk in there and
Yeah.
it's not, and because so often that's the truth.
Yep.
It's like, this is just really kind of a scam.
Mhm.
It's guaranteed scams. And so those kind of things, conditional guarantees that are extremely conditional, and you got to do this and you got to do that, they're being used as leverage points for what many of us know, for a company to gain our trust.
Mhm.
And we're hoping that they're going to be honest. But on the backside, all of the little things that are listed in this, and this are the reasons so somebody can get out of ever having to offer a guarantee.
Yeah.
Like, I'll offer a guarantee because it's expedient for me to get your money, but I don't want to ever have to give you that. And the companies that, if they're going to offer a guarantee in today's world with the amount of jadedness that's going on, you have to be really careful and not couch all that. You either don't offer a guarantee or offer one that's really clear, really
Yeah.
straightforward,
Ironclad.
and that it doesn't make people feel go, well, there's another one.
Mhm.
You don't want that response. And then the last one is rewards and recognition.
Mm.
The final one on this list that we have today is people really want to be recognized. They want to be rewarded. It's helpful if they're part of it that, like, I get some kind of inside deal.
Mm.
When I'm with my family, if my family is healthy, like, I get treated somewhat special because I'm part of the family.
Mhm.
And that saying has drifted into business. You're part of the family. So you get the family discount. You get the whatever that looks like. Oh, you're not a stranger. You're
Right.
part of us, part of our community. So recognition plans, reward plans are great, point plans that work well. They're really helpful in
Mhm.
creating that. But here's what's interesting is in all of these lists, and this is a really, like, this is a writer downer important. In all of these lists, if you're not careful, what happens is you tell people up front that they're going to get all these things. You're going to get these reward points. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And there's nothing to actually make people feel like it was a great experience. It's not delightful because you've told them what they're going to get. And
Mm.
it's as if when they purchase it, they get it. So when you deliver on that, you deliver just on a promise, like saying, when you get a car, it's going to have 4 tires on it.
Whereas if you hold back some of those things and you use them to delight the customer and they weren't anticipated and they weren't promised, then you have that opportunity to really notch up their experience. Yeah.
100%. And it's great to plan those things and be strategic, but it's also like, every time I come in, I get this. Sometimes that's part of the community experience. And you're like, oh, I'm rewarded for just being part of the community. And
Mhm.
it's okay to expect that because that's that part of, when I go there, I know I'm going to get a good table. When I go
Yep.
there, I know if I need an appointment this week, I know I'm going to be able to get in.
Mhm.
There, because I'm a regular, they're going to figure out a way to get me in and move things around because they value my business.
Mhm.
And when people go, I'm going to go there because I know they value my business and they treat me in a way that gives me that I'm not just a stranger.
Right.
And these 7 things
Mm.
are really powerful when we're trying to design it. If you say to somebody, you need to build great programs that delight the customers, create amazing customer delight. And as Buffett said, think about it in the morning, wake up and think about it in the morning, and think about it in the middle of the day, and think about it in the evening, and then dream about it at night. How can you delight customers? And then figure out how to implement these things and delight one customer at a time and add one little thing at a time that you can until you build an amazing program. I agree with him. I've never seen a company that does that kind of work that delights customers that's ever failed.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is going to really help our listeners a lot.
Really, really,
Really, really a lot.
really, really help.
Thanks for listening today.